are back. You're listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the #1 global talk news network on the internet, IBGR, International Business Growth Radio. Folks, I am Jason Wally Waldron, your host, and I'm joined here today by Ben Guttmann. And before we dive into this information again, I want to remind you, you can go to exitology.com, click contact us, send in a question, any question under the sun, and we will answer it in an upcoming episode. And with that, Ben, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back.
Yeah. So we were talking here in this first section about some fundamental breakdowns in how we communicate, and you kept coming back to this word fluency, which ultimately the root of fluent is fluid. And so, one way I think to think about this is, if I am the communicator, can I import my thought and brain into you, the receiver? How am I doing?
Yeah, in many ways that's true, right? So it's about flowing. It's about making sure that there's as little friction as possible between what you're trying to say and what the receiver wants to hear or needs to hear.
Right. And so you and I both come from a marketing background, and we were talking in the break about features and benefits, and there's a lot of old saws around this, right? Sell the sizzle, not the steak, right? Because if I said, hey Ben, even though your belly is full right now, would you like some bovine protein that's been sitting on a shelf for 30 days? That doesn't sound so good, and I've also hit you at the wrong time to sell you that steak. But just tell us a little bit, why are people still, maybe we're all too close to this. Let's go back to some basics here for a second. How come people don't understand that we don't buy features? We actually buy benefits.
Well, I think it's because with our five senses, we see, hear, taste, smell, touch, those features. Benefits are largely abstract a lot of times, but the features remain crystal clear in our perception. And so that's the easiest thing. The easiest thing is that I stick that, product in front of me, and I look at it and I say, okay, well, it's got this, it's got that, it's got that. And then I write the ad copy and it goes out. There's a quote that I tell my students that I tell them, if you remember this, you're ahead of everybody else in marketing. Even if you forget everything else in this class, this whole degree you have, if you remember this, you're going to be ahead of most folks. And it's from a Harvard professor, Theodore Levitt, from the 60s. He said, people don't want a quarter-inch drill. They want a quarter-inch hole. Right? Oh, they don't want a quarter-inch drill. They want a quarter-inch hole. They don't want the thing. They want what the thing does for them. So you mentioned another kind of adage there before. It's very similar. It's a drill. I can look at a drill and I can say, well, you know what? It's got this comfort silicone and grip, and it's got this 8-hour battery life, and it's got this, extra horsepower. And I can write an ad, and I can write an email, and I can write a proposal to the distributor and say, these are all the great things it has. But that is not why we buy drills. We don't buy drills because they have the battery life. We buy them because we want the hole. And actually, I would argue you don't even want the hole. You want the picture on the wall, because you want to have, and you don't even want the picture on the wall. You want to be reminded of love and belonging, right? You want these foundational motivations that we have when you look at Maslow's hierarchy, which I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times in different presentations and textbooks. Those are the things that really drive us. And if you can get closer to that, you're going to be better off in terms of matching up what somebody actually cares about, because people only care about the things they care about. You can't make people care about other things. So if the closer you can get to that, the more effective you're going to be in sales and marketing and really any sort of communication.
Well, I really like the point that you're making here. One of the ways so we work with a lot of business to business firms, and a lot of, there's a lot of business conversations happening, right? So we're working directly with the leaders. So they have the market themselves that they have to speak to, right? The people who pay them money for an outcome, right? And then you have your team, and each of them is seeking an outcome, and each of the stakeholders, right, is seeking an outcome. And so that a lot of times how we say it is, what is the outcome that you are actually communicating? Because nobody does business with anyone until they understand that they're over here, and on the other side of this, outcome chasm, the gap, right, is where you want to be. And so I think that's the whole, right? And I don't care if you use a hand drill. I don't care if you use the silicone Ryobi drill. I don't even care if you use a drill. I just want to feel loved and see my picture of grandma up there, right?
Oh yeah. It just drives me batty sometimes, because the bigger the company, the older the company, the more stakeholders there, the more you're removed from the hole, the more you see the drill. That's what happens. All these big companies that have had this product in the market forever, and maybe it's a B2B SaaS company of 1,000 employees and 1 million little widgets. All they can talk about is the drill. They can't talk about the hole, because the people who are doing the messaging are 10 layers away, 1,000 miles away from the hole. So the closer you can get to it, and the closer and actually the way to do it, the way to bridge that gap is really easy. It is asking 2 words. So what? So what? Okay, so let's use another example. Let's use mint toothpaste. I like this one. Okay, so mint flavor in your toothpaste. That's a feature. That's a thing that exists. You can experience it with your senses. Okay, so what? Well, I don't really want the mint toothpaste, so I want to have fresh breath. Okay, well that's there you go. First level. That's the functional benefit. That's the first piece. But you don't stop there. The thing is, we want to ask it again. Okay, I don't really want fresh breath. So what? What do I want? Well, I want to have a better date tonight, right? Like, and okay, now you're starting to get somewhere, actually, right? That's the emotional benefit.
Yeah, totally.
That's the second level piece of this. And then just ask it a third time. Okay, so what? Well, that's because maybe it's love and belonging. Maybe it's a physiological need that you have. And so all of a sudden you connected the flavor of the toothpaste to these core things that are driving you. And then you can turn the car around here and you can say, okay, well, now we understand what the direction is. I want to be talking about, that physiological need or that love and belonging need. And I'm going to then look at the emotional benefit as the hook. Maybe that's our first sentence on our website. Maybe that's the intro, the subject line of my email, whatever it is. I'm going to talk about the emotional benefit there, which is have a great date. And then I'm going to go talk about the functional benefit, which is having the fresh breath. And then eventually I'm going to talk about the last part of it, which is the feature. So instead of going from features downward, you end at the features. That's in the fine print, right? That's in the product description. That's important to have, but that's not why we buy the toothpaste.
That is really cool. Now I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. If our listener is sitting here saying, yeah, but I'm selling bricks to brick makers, or yeah, but right, I'm selling a giant pad of concrete to cold storage warehouses, or yeah, but you see where I'm going with this, right? The engineering mind is going to throw this up and say, yeah, but my people don't think that way. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say 2 things. They're partially right. They're partially wrong. Everybody communicates this way a little bit. We all care about the benefits, but they're also partially right, which is depending on who your audience is and what the circumstance is, you should invest accordingly to the different levels. That doesn't, by doing this exercise and understanding what drives people, doesn't mean that is the only thing you can say. It just means, okay, here's how we can organize our thinking. And if we are talking later on in the sales funnel and we're talking about, the tech specs with other folks, you know what? You don't have to talk about the Maslow's hierarchy. You don't have to talk about those types of things at that level. But if you're in the phase of communication where you're still trying to get somebody to care, well, you have to find out what you're selling, what you're shucking there, how that relates to what they care about.
And that, I think, is really the crux of what you're driving at, right? Because if there is all of this noise, whether it's self-created noise, maybe it's literally I'm working on a shop floor noise, maybe it's it's how do you cut through that message? And what you're saying here, I think, is find that emotional hook that's actually going to drive them to pay attention.
Yes. Absolutely. And we care, again, about lots of things. We wake up every day. We care about our friends and our family and our sport teams and our work deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care. We didn't wake up today saying we want to, go click on an ad. We wanted to go, open your spam email. That wasn't on our, you have to relate to what people care about. We as a species kind of grew up in this world where a lot of things wanted to eat us, right? And we're trained to notice a lot of different things that are rustling a leaf over there, and what's the version of that today? Well, maybe a flashing banner ad over here. So we notice a lot of things, but we very quickly take these things at a kind of low level of our brain, look at them, say, not a problem, not important to us, get rid of it, and we toss them aside before we end up processing them and understanding them. So the way in which we can avoid that is by starting to connect to those benefits and the most motivations, because then we're no longer going to be kind of, thrown by the wayside of every other rustling branch that crosses our attention.
And that's ultimately, going back, once we understand what that emotional hook is and what that really which part of the hierarchy of needs you're speaking to, then you can build true language around that. And I think that's where you're really inviting us to eventually get to. I mean, the book is, all about simplicity, right? And so ultimately we are looking to find language so that fluency happens. That's really to bring it all back around, to focus people on what we're trying to do here. That's
exactly. This is not a copywriting manual. It's not telling you exactly use this word or not that word. There's a couple moments where there's a few things I call out. Like the word "and" is something I call out a lot, because we use and to connect things that don't necessarily make sense together, but don't throw up a kind of red flag in our brains. So I like to say, interrogate the word "and," replace it with the word "so," and see if your messaging still makes sense, because that will often raise the flags that don't get raised by the "and." Is that if the "so" doesn't connect, or the "however," or the "but," or some other sort of cluster there. So there are pieces like that in here, but it is much more about just how do we think about what we're saying, rather than use this word or this grammar principle and this that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in how does communication work and how can we better connect with each other.
So 10 seconds or less, tell us where we can find more about you, the book, and then we'll take a short 2-minute break here.
You can find out the book and me all at benguttmann.com, BENGUTTMANN. I have to spell it because it's not a minimal name. But if you go to benguttmann.com, you can grab the book, you can grab a free chapter, you can find me on LinkedIn and reach out if there's anything I can help with.
Awesome. We'll take a short 2-minute break and see you on the other side here.